Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriella Taylor here. And a question that I've been exploring a lot in my life is just overall a woman's relationship with power. Like, what is power? How do we know if we're powerful? What does it mean to reclaim our power, especially given that we are coming out of a way of being culturally in which feminine power has been seen as less than, has been undermined. And particularly in the state of the world right now, we're just really witnessing the increase of the diminishment of the feminine. And so I feel like it's a conversation that's very close to my heart. And in the mastermind programs that I run for women, in the retreats that I lead for women, in the salons that I lead for women, in my private coaching clients, it's an ongoing conversation around women, power, money, impact, and also a sense of self, a healthy sense of self and balance in one's life. So I just want to take a little bit of time to unpack this here. And I'm speaking through the lens of where it's been nearly, I mean, gosh, I can't believe it, but it's been almost 30 years since I've been in this industry. And I look through the lens of the feminine brain. I did my postgrad in relational neuroscience. I look through the lens of psychology, the feminine psyche, in terms of how do the processes that are occurring within our brain impact our psychological framework in terms of how we see ourselves, how we see others, what we believe about ourselves and our place in the world. And all of that, I believe, falls under the umbrella of our souls. And so there's this relationship between the feminine soul, the feminine spirit, that to me connects us with something much greater than all of us, that is really a extraordinary resource of grace and possibility. So let's explore, like, what does it mean for a woman to step into her power? This is, to me, this is a question that I find is worth a lot of deep reflection. And as I've shared, it's sort of been a lifelong reflection for me, but especially because of this world that we live in that once did revere feminine power, not as greater than masculine power, but more in a way where it was equally regarded for thousands and thousands of years. But then we also know that for the past 6, 7,000 years, that power that was once revered, the power to heal, to nurture, to give life, then became feared. And there has been tragic attempts, often, successful, to suppress this. And so while for thousands of years, women have been systematically silenced and held back, despite this, there is this force within each one of us, something that is far greater than our minds, our personalities, that connects us to to a holy power. And to me, this power is rooted in love. And it's the power of love that is accessible to every single one of us, no matter our past, no matter our history, no matter what our conditioning has been. And it's this power that is connected to the divine feminine, which is a strength that flows through women. It's a strength that flows through feminine energy that lives in men and women. But particularly for those of us that are in female bodies, I feel that it's a conduit that we have access to, that offers us unique capacities that are very distinct from traditional ideas of strength. There's a certain strength that it takes to go into a burning house and pull people out. And then there's a different strength that goes into our ability to persevere, to keep going, to keep showing up, and to nurture life no matter what. And it's been, these strengths, feminine strengths, have been undervalued for quite some time. Yet the reality is it's no less valuable. Because the truth is, it takes a certain strength to persevere through, despite being treated as lesser. It takes resilience to keep showing up day after day at a job where our male counterpart is maybe being paid double, triple for similar work. It takes a certain strength and courage to nurse a sick child through the night or to bury our children. It takes a certain strength and courage to rise each day in a home where perhaps you've been mistreated, whether it's a family member, whether it's a spouse, whether you're in a situation in which where you're caring for somebody that is severely disabled. It takes a certain strength to rise each day, whether there's mistreatment in the home or where we are just being asked to give so much of ourselves to just help others get through the day. There are all of these strengths that are required to put food on the table, to take care of our loved ones. And when we think about really the bravery that it takes to face challenges like breast cancer or illnesses that we each so many of us have gone through ourselves or to nurse others through it, there is a particular strength in this feminine power that gives us this grit, this ability to withstand, to lead health and well-being, and to transform. However, in the 21st century, as we're seeing, the attempts to suppress the power of a woman's ability to have a agency over her own body, over her own mind, and a sense that she's able to be a free thinking citizen in our country that has full access to health care and bodily autonomy, that's being threatened right now. We've seen a horrific uptick in acts of violence and attacks against women since the US election last week. One study shows a 6,000% increase in acts of violence and attacks against women within 2 days of the election. So we see that there's this time that we're in where there is a huge negativity bias against women. And also, there's the strength and power within women that I believe each one of us are being asked to dig deep and to call upon. So what does it mean to be an empowered woman today? To me, there are a few different qualities of power come to mind. I think of financial power. We need to know how to build, manage, and share wealth in ways that serve the highest good, not just for ourselves, but for our communities. Because to the degree that we have been dependent on others to provide for us financially, or we've been diminished, our roles have been diminished in financial matters, we really are being asked to overcome this. And this is why I've been partnering with wealth advisory firms, JP Morgan, UBS, Morgan Stanley, to look at how can we psychologically and relationally prepare women to be empowered stewards of wealth. And I'm hosting a salon here in my home next week for a small handful of 30 ultra high net worth women that are really looking at how to leverage their resources for the good. However, we know that because women and money and power has been a conversation that has been very much kept in the dark, where we women have been silenced. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of challenge, fear and anxiety and scarcity around it. No matter how big our portfolios are, we know that there are some dots that we need to connect in terms of psychological strengths to really allow us to fully leverage our financial power, no matter what our income is. I mean, look, I grew up on food stamps, so it's like I understand what it feels like to be awake in the middle of the night when I didn't even know how I was going to pay for rent, for that particular month. And so I really understand what it's taken for me to overcome a lot of the limitation that I've carried in myself around my own earning capacity. And I really understand what it's been for me to grow the psychological strength to really know that my wealth is in my ability to create. And I have been blessed with the fruits of my efforts for a long time now, for which I'm very, very grateful. And so I really understand the fulcrum point, that no matter where we stand, there's a fulcrum point that we stand on the spectrum that is asking us to really look at our financial power. And what does that mean? And then that's on the backdrop of what is being called the Great Wealth Transfer. So if you Google that, the Great Wealth Transfer, there's an estimation of up to $72 trillion that will be released into the US economy, into women's hands within the next 10 years. Unprecedented. Never before have women had this much control and power over money. So we have some work to do to prepare ourselves to really be wise stewards of our financial power. Another power that I look at is about personal power. So this is about having a relationship with our deepest, most authentic selves. When I teach my women's groups, I talk a lot about the Western feminine psyche and how there's been a split in the Western feminine psyche because of the effects of the patriarchy that live inside of every single one of us, which has caused us to need to adapt. So we have an adaptive self that just learned how to get through it, even if it was through lying, begging, cheating, manipulating, shutting down, whatever it is. And we all have an authentic self, that center point of stillness and purity and truth within. And so getting to know our authentic self, so our authentic self can minister to the hurts of our adaptive self, is so much of where we grow stronger from within. Because at our core, this authentic self, this is a guiding force that we can learn to turn towards, to trust as a compass, a North Star to make decisions from, and to determine the paths that we choose, where we're really walking in alignment with our truest values and who we are called to be on the deepest and highest levels. So there's this piece around personal power. The third area of power that I think about is psychological power. And this is an important one, particularly, this is the call to action. For me, this is a call to action for all of us women that live in the US to really look at where have we been unconsciously tolerating mistreatment by others. Where have we, I mean, I don't think I know one woman that hasn't been shaped by some form of male aggression. And if you know me, you know I love men. I'm talking about dynamics because there's plenty of furious women out there that are mean, and the whole phenomenon of, kneecapping and all of that, the adaptive self, right? And however, really looking at where have we normalized, where have we justified, where have we made excuses for people mistreating us, whether it's a boss undermining us in a meeting, whether it's our spouse that's speaking down to us, whether it's a family member that thinks that they can take out their emotional stress or upsets on us, but just really looking at where are we allowing ourselves to be mistreated, where are we allowing others to be mistreated, and where are we unconsciously complicit because we've been staying silent. So the psychological power has to do with developing boundaries, getting to know what our limits are, what we will and will not settle for anymore. And it's developing that internal character strength, that confidence to hold firm, where we're able to speak up when something needs to be said, and we're able to walk away when we're being disrespected so we can start teaching others how to respect us. And this is a big one that I have a lot of enthusiasm around supporting my sisters in whatever walk of life that we're in, really looking at how can we develop that psychological power that really allows us to take excellent care of ourselves so then we can help take care of others. And then the last area of power that comes to me is the power in sisterhood. The power in sisterhood. This is about lifting other women up. It is time for us women to band together and to become mirrors for each other, to reflect back our strength to one another. This is why I lead feminine power incubators. This is why I lead masterminds, because I know that there's something that happens that is extraordinary amongst groups of women actually learning how to restore safety amongst sisterhood. Because we all know, and the studies tell us, that sometimes our worst harassment can come through women in the workplace, and also socially in the undermining, the subtle undermining through gossip or being very passive aggressive with our sisters. So discovering and developing, like becoming a woman that is a good sister, that is a good woman, where we know that we've got each other's backs, is crucial. And so we need to become these mirrors for our other sisters, where we reflect to women, our beauty, our goodness, our strength, where we use our words to encourage and empower and lift up ourselves and each other, where we breathe life into each other, where we actually form this unshakable bond so we know that we're not alone. And this has to do, as I was talking about the Western feminine psyche, there's the split in the Western feminine psyche of the adaptive self and the authentic self. And I think of this in terms of how that shows up through the shadow feminine and the empowered feminine. And the shadow feminine has had a lot of reasons to turn towards diminishment of ourself and other women, criticizing ourselves and other women, and really undercutting ourselves. So to me, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of opportunity that we have to do to restore the sanctity of the feminine and of the bond of sisterhood, so we can rest easy into knowing that we're not alone and that we've got each other's back. So I've just found that in all of my years of working with women, these are the four areas that really stand out to me, having to do with key areas in which we can help call our power back and develop more a greater sense of power. And as it relates to, I mean, this is what I love to do. It's supporting the feminine brain in accessing new neural pathways that allow us to actually connect with natural inborn confidence and an ability to feel safe in our bodies and safe with each other. So much of this is actually brain and nervous system based. And then I like to look at how that then informs our psyche, where we naturally become a center of well-being, where we are a safe and trusted person for ourselves and for our loved ones, and where we can also lean back inside and know that we've got our own back. And as always, coming back to just really looking at how can we connect with that deeper light of our soul that flows through us to guide us on our journeys. Because, I see that while, when we look at what's happening in our country here, I see two distinct things happening. There is one, the undeniable rise of feminine power that is happening in me, in you, if you're watching this, and women everywhere. And number two, there is so much healing to do. Too many of us are still conditioned to accept mistreatment, to silence our voices, to overlook our worth and value and settle for less when it comes to financial remuneration or what we are accepting as it relates to our money and work in the world. And we also have been experiencing how there's a subtle and insidious tendency to take ourselves down by focusing on, what our butt looks like in jeans or how our aging process is, and all of the self-judgment and criticism that has been misdirected to our feminine body and our form. And to me, this is where we have our work to do. So yes, feminine power is rising. We are redefining what it means to not only be a woman alive today in the 21st century, but also it's the collective, it's the evolution of the feminine consciousness that is rising. And I am all about doing whatever we can do to inwardly prepare ourselves so we can truly be the light that we are here to be. And I want to be very clear that this is not a critique of women at all. This is a heartfelt call to action from one woman to another, where I'm inviting all of us to reflect on the ways that we've been conditioned to settle for less, to look the other way, or even reward men for behavior that doesn't honor us. And I mean, I get it. I understand how deep these things go in terms of the feeling of powerlessness. I understand how these patterns take root. I grew up in an alcoholic home with a father who was deeply hurt, who carried a lot of anger and was very explosive. And I learned early on that it was quite normal for men to rage at me. I also went through a very dark period of my early life, marked by very severe sexual abuse, and which left me believing that my only value was as an object to please others. And so for a long time, I didn't even realize how much I was tolerating. I had no idea that what I was going through was not okay. I had no idea because it was normalized. And because I had learned to numb the pain and I didn't even know that I was in pain, it really has been a rich part of my own healing journey of discovering, like, oh, this is what's okay. This is what's acceptable. This is what promotes self-respect and self-esteem. So I just want you to know that you're not alone. No matter what your circumstances are, you're not alone. And I am here with you in spirit on this journey. I am here with you in reality on this journey. If you're part of my circle of women's groups and things that I lead, I'm here with you. And I am one of many women that are truly standing forward. So together we can reclaim our voices and our true worth and our power as women, because nothing gives me greater fulfillment. Honestly, I mean, truly, when I think of, like, my highest purpose, helping a woman reconnect with her authentic self and form bonds with other women that then empower us to go out into the world and create the change that we're here to make is what my life is about. And so I just invite you to reflect on this. What does this mean for you to step into your own power? Financially, personally, psychologically, with other women? What are ways that you can reclaim your voice, where you can support other women and really embody the strength that is uniquely yours, that flows through you through the divine feminine? And also ask yourself, what are you tolerating right now, like today, this week? What are you tolerating? And sometimes it's an effort to be honest with ourselves because we get a little overwhelmed by what we see. But just taking, it's a real gift. Self-honesty is a real gift. It's like, what am I tolerating? What behavior, what condition, what situation am I tolerating that I have an ability to use my words to speak up and make some new choices around this? So, journal on this, reflect on it, send me a note about it. And I invite you to really look for, yes, we look at what's in the shadows, the things that are holding us back, so we can bring light to the shadows, so we can shine the light that flows through our souls even more brightly. So thank you for being part of this movement. I am so committed to building a movement of extraordinary women by transforming how we create lasting change from within, because I think we can all agree it's time to do things differently. So thank you for being here with me. And just remember that you are powerful beyond measure. And the world needs exactly what you have to offer, whether it's in your own immediate family, in your neighborhood, your community, or on the global stage. We need you. We love you. I believe in you. And so let's do this together. God bless.